episode 91 of the podcast. This week we're talking about some science. In the first part, we're going to talk about the scientific method. We're going to talk about taking a behavior problem that we see and we observe, and we're going to put it through the scientific method to help us solve problems. In the second part, we're going to talk about the difference between an opinion or an observation, and we're going to play a little game. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Newmeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, a certified professional dog trainer, and the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. Anytime someone asks me about a behavior that they're seeing, I start asking questions. But let's talk a little bit about why that's important, why we're going to use science. Because the difference between this is the way I like to do things and this is how I do things, the results that I get and the way that it works, those are very different things. So if you get advice like, oh, so-and-so says this is the way I do things and it works great for me, I want you to also kind of say, all right, can I put that through a scientific lens to find out why it works for them? And is that the sort of result that will work for my situation with this individual dog? Or is my situation different? I think that we need to go back to science. Let's backtrack to some science, right? In behavior terms, it's advice about behavior, but there are other examples. So it's the difference between, hey guys, what do you like for shampoo on this particular type of coat? You might hear, I really like this brand. It's always worked well for me. Or you might hear, I really like this brand for this type of coat. If you have hard water, it'll work really well. And let me tell you how those ingredients interact with the structures of the skin and the hair. That's an entirely different answer. One is scientific. The other one is still based on opinion. Opinions are important. We're going to have them, but I want you to analyze a little bit deeper. Okay? We're still going to say, hey, I would try this. Hey, I like this shampoo. Hey, I like this method of changing a behavior. But to have the background to analyze it, especially if we're the ones asking for advice, then we can kind of say, hey, you know what? That piece of advice I think is really going to make a difference for me because I ran it through. I ran it through the scientific method and I kind of looked at the dog I have in front of me and thought, that's a brilliant solution, right? It's not because the advice that we're given isn't great. It's just that I need you guys to be thinking more about the science. So let's backtrack to the scientific method. All right, groomers, please, 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 just stick with me. I know a lot of us are not heavy into science. I mean, I love science, but I know not of us are really heavy into science. I literally looked up what the first grade level scientific method stuff was. Not that you guys are first grade level, but we're not going too deep. You're not going to need a PhD to understand what I'm talking about because I certainly don't have a PhD either. But the scientific method. So step 1, make an observation. Now, in the case of a behavior, that could be, this dog bites at the dryer. It's an observation. This dog bites at the dryer. Step 2, the scientific method, is to ask a question. My question would be, why does this dog bite at the dryer? Why is he doing that? Before we start getting into, what do you guys do when dogs bite at the dryer? No, let's go to step 2, the scientific method. Why does this dog bite at the dryer? Which is why when I'm online and somebody asks a question, I throw more questions back. I'm already on step 2. Ask a question. Now, step 3, form a hypothesis or a testable explanation. So I looked up the definition of hypothesis because I know that that's one of those things that, many of us don't have a scientific background. So the definition of a hypothesis is an idea or explanation that you can then test through study and experimentation. Outside of science, we also hear it listed as a theory or guess that can also be called a hypothesis. But a hypothesis is something more than a wild guess, but less than a well-established theory. And that's kind of my my take on what I got off of vocabulary.com for the definition of a hypothesis. So step 3 is to form a hypothesis, a testable explanation. So in this case, we went through step 1 was, this dog bites at the dryer. Step 2, why does this dog bite at the dryer? Step 3, the hypothesis. My hypothesis might be, I think it's too loud. That this is a sound sensitivity issue with this dog. That would be a hypothesis. There are many others. We can come up with lots of them, but let's just use this as an example. So step 4 would be to make a prediction based on that hypothesis. Okay, so if it was too loud, what if I tried a happy hoodie? And for those of you listening who don't know what a happy hoodie is, it's almost like a terry cloth tube. It's a little bit stretchy, and it goes nice and secure over their head, little hood, protects their ears, and it also, because it's terry cloth, helps absorb some of the moisture on their face while they're drying. It's a nice little tool. Some dogs like them, some dogs don't. But my prediction could be, what if I use a happy hoodie to reduce the sound if my hypothesis is that it's just too loud? Okay? Now step 5 would be to test that. Put the happy hoodie on and try the dryer again. Did the behavior increase or decrease? Is the dog still biting at the dryer? Is the dog not biting at the dryer? How did the behavior change? Behavior change, right? Now step 6 is to use those results to make a new hypothesis or new predictions and start the process over again. Because if that dog is still biting at the dryer, okay, so that didn't help this dog on this day with this issue. Maybe it's not sound. Now we form another hypothesis. So again, the scientific method, step 1 is to make an observation. And for us, and when we're talking about training stuff, that's usually, I'm seeing a behavior that is not conducive to me doing my grooming job. That could be lots of things, right? But to observe that behavior, just look at it for what it is. Just observe it. Step back from all of the storytelling that we do and all of the client shaming that we do and all of the bad experience histories that we kind of worry about, but to step back from that for a moment and think, what am I actually seeing? What do I observe? What can I measure? What can everyone in the room agree is happening? Because we can get our opinions out of the way and just observe. What is measurable? What can we notice? So let's do another example. So if step 1 is to make an observation, let's use an example. This dog is bouncing all over the place. He's on my table and he's just bouncing all over the place. So if step 2 is to ask a question, my question is, why does the dog bounce all over the place? And you know what? It sounds pretty obvious when I'm saying it, but I find, like I said, you're on Facebook and someone says, what do you guys do for dogs that bounce all over the place? But nobody asks, why is the dog bouncing all over the place? Or certainly not often enough. I think I see an awful lot more people, especially listeners here, because you guys are awesome, but asking the question of, why do you think the dog is bouncing all over the place? Tell us more. Tell me more about that dog, right? So if we ask why, then maybe our hypothesis, our testable explanation, I think this dog may need to go potty, right? What if that's your hypothesis? This dog is bouncing all over the place. Why is the dog bouncing all over the place? I think this dog may need to go potty, right? So now we make a prediction based on that hypothesis. What will happen if I bring that dog out to go potty? If they need to go potty and they go out and they pee or they poop and they relieve themselves, they should be good on the table. If that was what the problem was, then they should be good on the table. So next step, right? We're going to test it. We're going to test that prediction. And we're going to put them outside, give them a chance to go potty and put them back on the table and find out what happened. What was the result? So that we can form a new hypothesis and start over again. So if the dog did go outside, go potty, and now he's being normal on the table again, hey, cool. So we found out the dog needed to go potty. Now, you might be thinking this seems like an awful lot to just kind of take a look at why my dog is behaving this way. Why this dog is behaving this way. Do I really need to go through these steps? But I want you to think that the science makes a difference. What if that didn't work? But everyone on Facebook told you, just take the dog out to go potty, right? I'm always using Facebook as an example. I'm kind of a Facebook junkie. So if everyone's on Facebook telling you that dog needs to go potty, that's what I do with all my dogs who are wiggly, and it works for me 100% of the time. What if this is the one dog it doesn't work on? Then you go back and ask your question. Why is this dog bouncing all over the place? And then form another hypothesis. And that's, again, we're observing. We're taking a look at the dog. And that's why we ask a lot more questions. Is there a lot of silliness happening? Is there a dog playing? Did their owners just pull up? Is mommy over in the window making funny faces and tapping on the window? Right? Those are reasons why a dog might become silly. So some of it is us knowing our dogs and understanding dog behavior, and some of it is us taking the moment to observe and just watch what's going on, not just with what is happening under your hand or happening with your clippers or your scissors or when you turn on a dryer, but look at the whole room. Look at everything happening and ask questions and form a hypothesis. So again, scientific method, and I know like first grade level scientific method, okay? I'm not asking you guys to go too crazy on this. But step 1, make an observation. Step 2, ask a question. Step 3 is to form that hypothesis or testable explanation. Step 4 is to make a prediction based on that hypothesis. Step 5 is to test the prediction. And step 6 is to use those results to make a new hypothesis or predictions. And you might need to start over and over again. And it works. See, that's the thing. It really works. It will simplify our lives if we get more into this idea of I need to observe what's happening, ask questions, and try to piece the puzzle together and gather my clues. If you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes, and tell all of your friends. Now that we've discussed making observations, I want to do a little test with you guys. We're going to play a little game, opinion or observation, to help you really see what I'm looking at when I'm talking about observing and really seeing what the behavior is. So let's play a little game, opinion or observation. The dog is a jerk. All right, that one's pretty obviously an opinion. That's somebody who is frustrated, and probably a dog who is frustrated. They are not meeting in the middle. Something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. But that's not something that we can actually use to form a question and a hypothesis. I mean, I suppose we could say, why is the dog a jerk? But it's not the right kind of information. I want to know what's happening. Why are you saying this dog is a jerk? All right, here's another one. The dog doesn't stand in the tub. Opinion or observation? Now that one's an observation. The dog doesn't stand in the tub. Now we can ask a question. Why doesn't this dog stand in the tub? Kind of take a look. Form a hypothesis or a testable explanation. Is this dog slipping around in the tub? Would a mat below their feet help them? Is this dog elderly? Is this dog really obese? What's going on with this dog that's keeping them from standing in the tub? Come up with some ideas so that we can test them. We can make a prediction, we can test it, and we can look at the results. So that one's an observation. The dog doesn't stand in the tub. Let's try another one. The dog is spoiled at home. I know, we hear that a lot, right? We really can't use that in the scientific method. That's not going to help us. The dog is spoiled at home is clearly an opinion. Who knows what that means? That means 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people. I gotta say, my own guys, there are people who would say that they're spoiled, and there are people who would say they live under tight rules. It really is up to the eye of the person saying it. That's not a really good observation. That's not going to fall into the scientific method. So an observation would be what the dog is doing that made you say the dog is spoiled at home. Or maybe you're basing it on what the owners have said. But it's not an observation, it's an opinion. Now, here's another one. She growls when I touch her feet. Opinion or observation? She growls when I touch her feet. I would call that an observation. That's something that we can use the scientific method on. Like, why is the dog growling when I touch her feet? I can form a hypothesis around that. We can discuss, why do we think the dog is growling when we touch her feet? Now we have something to discuss, and maybe we can bring it to, other colleagues and form a hypothesis, make a prediction, test the prediction, because we have something that is clear and observable. Growls when I touch her feet. Now here's another one. He doesn't like the clippers. Now we're getting a little bit trickier. The others were easy. Now we're getting a little trickier. He doesn't like the clippers. Is that an opinion or an observation? So I'm going to say that one's an opinion. Now what you're observing is what he does when he's with the clippers, and that's what we need to hear about. You're still seeing something, but you're putting it through a filter of he likes or he doesn't like. And that's kind of anthropomorphizing. That's putting emotions into the story that might not be there. It's not about whether or not he likes it. It's more about what does he do? How does he express what you see as dislike? Because plenty of dogs are probably good, but still don't enjoy the clippers. So if you're seeing a behavior issue and you're putting it as a he doesn't like, we still have a lot of questions. And so some of the questions I would ask, what does he do with the clippers? Is it everywhere? Is it when the clippers are on? Is it every type of clipper? What's happening with the clippers? What happens when he does the behavior, and what behavior is it? How does he show that he doesn't like the clippers? Is he trying to get away? Is he trying to grab you? Is he trying to make the clippers stop? Is he trying to kick them out of your hand? What happens? Those are observable. But he doesn't like the clippers? That's an opinion. It's not going to work well in the scientific method. Here's another one. She's never been told no. This one gets a little bit trickier. I am going to say that, first of all, the word never, we don't know if she's ever been told no or not. I'm going to say it's an opinion. Certainly it's not an observation. You might observe that the owner doesn't say the word no, but really it's an opinion. And if you're using that to define the behavior problem, it's not enough information for anyone to give you good advice with. It's not enough information for a colleague to help you make a hypothesis or a testable explanation, or help you with a prediction based on the hypothesis or a test for that prediction, right? It's not going to follow the scientific method because it doesn't really tell us much of anything. It doesn't really tell us much of anything. What is this dog doing? What are you observing that led you to say she's never been told no? Right, here's another one. Another example. He pants and whines during force drying. Okay, now for the trainers out there, the term force drying refers to the high velocity dryer. I know sometimes trainers don't understand some of the lingo. Groomers and trainers do things differently. So that's a term for the high velocity dryer, is a force dryer. It doesn't mean that we're forcing drying as much as it means that's the tool that we're using versus a stand dryer or a fluff drying. It's just the tool. So he pants and whines during force drying. Yeah, that's an observation. You guys are getting good at this. I'm sure of it. I can almost see your faces, and I can see you right there going, nope, that's an observation. He's panting and he's whining during force drying. All right, that's something that gives us something to work with. And honestly, each of these examples, I would ask more questions about. I'm always asking lots and lots of questions. Is it all force drying? Is it force drying in the tub or force drying on the table? Is it force drying on a particular body part? Is it force drying with a particular nozzle? Is it force drying when the force dryer is nice and still? Or is it force drying when the force dryer is doing the swishy, 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 right? Each of those things is different. There are so many questions to ask. And when we ask good questions based on good observations, we make progress. Things become clear very, very quickly. And it can help us talk to other colleagues. It can help us talk to owners. It can help us solve the problems that we're seeing in front of us if we can step back and observe. What are we seeing? So I want you to be thinking about observing. So watch what is happening and something that we can ask questions about. And maybe not just ask one question, like, why is he panting and whining for drying? But also, when is he panting and whining during drying? What else is happening in that moment? So that we can form a guess. We can guess. We can test it. And we can come up with lots of guesses and test a bunch of them, right? This process is actually pretty quick. It doesn't take all that long, but you have to train your eye. And sometimes we have to realize when we're adding our opinions, and it's okay to have opinions. God knows we have opinions. I have opinions. I will very, very easily say this dog is kind of being a jerk, right? Right? It's the way that we talk. But if I'm trying to solve a problem, I backtrack to the science. I go back to the observations. I go back to what am I seeing? What body postures am I seeing? What is happening in that moment? What is the dog doing? What's the result? There are lots of things to observe so that I can fix it, right? We want to fix it. So the scientific method, I think, is sort of something that we should be thinking about. So we should be thinking, all right, how do I solve the problem in front of me without asking for opinions? Okay, opinions are good. You're going to get opinions. But you know what? When someone gives you an opinion, throw it through the scientific method. Throw it through these steps. Google scientific method. And there are lots of different, you can go really, really deep dive with the scientific method. But like I said, I picked like the first grade level scientific method, right? So if someone's giving you advice, put it through the scientific method. Hey, do I think that advice would work on this dog that I have observed? I have asked the question, I've formed the hypothesis, the testable explanation, right? Like, if this dog thinks it's too loud, would that piece of advice that someone just gave me lessen the level of noise? May I now test that? If this dog is growling at me every time I touch their feet and someone gave me something interesting to do about feet, does that make sense? The hypothesis, does it match my question of why is this dog doing this about their feet? If someone says, have you looked at the nails and the pads? And does this dog need a vet check? Hey, that matches with why a dog might do that with their feet, and maybe I should check that, right? So we need to be thinking about the scientific method. And it's so easy. Come on, there is a first grade level for scientific method. I mean, how easy is that, right? It's not like we need to go off and buy a chemistry set, right? We can work on this and have that mindset of, I need to observe. I need to observe. What am I seeing in this dog's body language? What is the who, what, where, when, why? The gathering of clues. Who, what, where, when, why? What is measurable? Panting. Can we all agree a dog is panting? Sure. Now we can ask questions about why the dog is panting. Can we all agree if a dog is giving us a big wide eye? Can we all agree if a dog's tail is lowered and tucked under them? Can we all agree if a dog is lying down in the tub and having trouble standing? Yeah, those are all observations. If you'd like more information, you can find me at Chrissy@happycritters.net, happycrittersdogtraining.com, or you can join the Facebook group, Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast, or the Facebook page, Creating Great Grooming Dogs. I really look forward to hearing from you. If you're ready to go beyond the podcast, and I hope you do, I've made it really easy for you. If you go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step, you'll see all of the options. There's the Scholar Lounge community, there's the Modern Grooming Professional certification, there's Master Canine Stylist and Professional Canine Stylist diploma testings, there's the Behavior Lab for coaching and private one-on-one sessions with me, and of course, the Master Groomer Behavior Specialist program. So go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com
grooming.com and click on Your Next Step.